I don't know about you, but I'm not sure if I'll ever look at pizza quite the same way ever again. I'm sure everyone's already familiar with the entire Pizzagate topic. My intention here is not to go back through all the pieces of evidence or all the strange connections and to dig into all of that because there have been plenty of people that have been combing through it all, and I'm sure there'll be plenty more. And honestly, I actually didn't even look into it that much right at the beginning. I've just been kind of engrossed in my own little areas of research and stuff, and different things I've been working on. And so, yeah, to be honest, I wasn't even sure if maybe some people were just taking things to some extreme ends. I wasn't discounting it, but sometimes people do kind of jump on bandwagons, especially in the truther community. And yeah, so I wasn't sure. I'm not even sure how much I believe about just WikiLeaks in general and all these things. I tend to be very skeptical of all quote unquote whistleblowers and quote unquote leaked information and things. But indeed, after having now kind of looked into more and more of it and seen the research that other people have done, it definitely does appear to be precisely what people are saying. It's just kind of too much to not be in terms of all the things that Podesta is clearly into, and yeah, all those signs are there. So yeah, I'm not trying to rehash all those little details, but what I did want to speak to was just the overall question of evil itself, and this whole scenario is kind of interesting and telling, and how it really brings this whole discussion to a very clear head in a lot of ways. And the whole question of evil and the problem of evil is one that has historically comes up, so much in terms of apologetics and religion. And I'm sure most of us are familiar with hearing people raise questions of, if there is a God, then why is there evil in the world? Why is there so much wickedness? How could a good God allow, horrible, evil things to happen? And it tends to be kind of discussed on that level. But it's interesting because in reality, the quote unquote problem of evil, when you really boil it down, only points towards the existence of God, towards the existence of a creator, and a creator who is separate from the creation. Because really what it comes down to is the question of there being an objective, absolute moral law. And there can really be no such thing as an objective moral law without a moral law giver. And the alternatives to this is either, on the one hand, you have atheistic, scientific materialism, where everything is just a cosmic accident and there really is no basis for morality at all, because everything is just equally accidental combinations of matter and energy just organizing itself and reorganizing itself, and there's no intention behind anything. There's no design. There's nothing to say that anything should be organized this way versus that way. In an evolutionary paradigm, everything is just morality and ethics is just an illusion, really. There's nothing but the material world. There's ultimately no consequences to anything that happens on any scale in terms of morality, or there being any sort of judge, when you die or at the end of history or anything like that. But then on the other side, when we look at mystical belief systems, which ultimately are usually a weird combination of polytheism and pantheism. And honestly, it took me a while to kind of realize that polytheism and pantheism are actually kind of two sides of the same coin, but they really are. And in every form of pantheism or panentheism, either everything is God, everything is an emanation of God, or God is in everything, and some can be described, it can be presented in a variety of ways, but it's all ultimately variations of the same thing, where nothing is ever truly separate. The creator and the creation are all really inseparable at the end of the day, and so it's all about trying to get back to our connection to the divine, trying to rediscover what's been lost. It's a false separation. The dualism is basically seen as the main thing that needs to be overcome. We need to get back to this understanding that all is one. Monism, oneism. And so that's at the heart of Eastern philosophies, and really Gnosticism and esoteric philosophies. And so this is largely why I bring this up, especially in the context of most of the stuff that I get into on this channel. Is so oftentimes people want to come and present this argument, or explore this idea of the occult teachings aren't evil in themselves. They've just been used by the elites for evil purposes, towards evil ends, right? But the knowledge is neither good nor bad, that it's neutral, and it's just a matter of how you apply it in this sort of thing. And this kind of thinking is just so tragically misaligned and just flat out wrong. And it's interesting when something like this Comet Ping Pong Pizza scandal, which obviously the majority of the the quote unquote regular folks out there aren't paying any attention to, or just think is crazy. And of course it's just pure coincidence that Zuckerberg and Facebook roll out this whole fake news agenda right around the time when this breaks. But yeah, for those of us in the truther community who've already known about things like satanic ritual abuse and all the horrible things that go on with the elites, and all the kinds of abuse and trafficking, and just how ugly that underground machine really is, we already know that this is going on. The Franklin scandal, there have been so many things. The internet is full of so many testimonials out there of people who have been through just horrific things. The investigations of Ted Gunderson and so on. There's so much evidence. So on the one hand, this isn't something new. We've known about this, but it is shocking on a new level in terms of just how sick and twisted it is that something so vile is being hidden behind the guise of this a supposedly family-friendly pizza establishment, taking something so grotesque and so depraved and just reducing it to something as casual as ordering a pizza, equating, like, people actually getting to the point of equating their preferred type of pedophilia with your preferred toppings of pizza and pasta. I mean, how sick is that? And again, this is why I bring it up, because there are a few things in our culture, in our society today, which almost everyone unanimously reacts to with the same moral response, right? I mean, there used to be many more things that were just regarded as just universally morally wrong or objectionable, and those things have been whittled down and whittled away. And so this kind of represents one of those few, for the people who can acknowledge that such things go on with a frightening regularity. It's shocking, but at the same time, it begs the question, why is this shocking? Why should it be shocking? Ultimately, what it reveals is that there's a self-contradiction in trying to, on the one hand, point your finger at these evil elites and condemn them for these sick and depraved practices, but on the other hand, rejecting the idea of there being an all-powerful creator who has the right to say what is good, what is right and wrong. And you really can't have it both ways. And yet this is precisely this situation that millions of people out there are in. There's really no basis you really have no foundation by which to define anything as truly evil if once you throw out an objective source of morality. Because otherwise it's just, ultimately, if we're all emanations from God, if we're all on our way to rediscovering God, then really you can't condemn what those people are doing. And this is what I think should be troubling to a lot of people out there who have kind of absorbed a lot of these Gnostic ideas, is that if good and evil are really just illusory, if they're just artificial distinctions, if it's just dualism that's designed to enslave us, and dualistic thinking, and all these kinds of arguments that I hear all the time, then ultimately you'd have to commend the people who have rejected dualistic morality to the point of where they're able to do the most hideous acts, because by doing so they're demonstrating how they themselves have ascended beyond morality, right? Beyond dualistic thinking, beyond dualistic morality. These acts are really an act of rebellion and defiance against the God of the Bible, with his with his supposedly oppressive law and oppressive morality. This is the level to which all the mystery schools and all the occultism has brought them. And this is what I think most people don't want to even consider, is that they didn't simply use this esoteric knowledge for evil ends, but this is where they were slowly brought to. Some of them were raised in it their whole lives, and they've known nothing else, and that doesn't excuse it, but other people were gradually brought one level at a time, one layer at a time, into further and further layers of depravity. Okay, that's what the whole system is designed to do. It's to slowly eat away at your conscience and sear your conscience and eat away at your sense of right and wrong. Because that's considered the enemy. That's considered the false teaching, if you believe that there's good and evil. So I think it's something really important for people to think about, to consider when they're, rejecting the God of the Bible. When they attack the God of the Bible and attack his righteous law, which they don't even understand, but then embrace this oneism spirituality, this monistic pantheistic spirituality, and don't realize how then they're contradicting themselves by calling anyone or anything evil. You really can't do it. You don't have a leg to stand on. So it's a startling self-contradiction indeed, and hopefully it gives people something to think about. And I do hope that it prompts people to consider, to go back and look at what the Bible says, who God is, why Jesus had to come and die, because there is such a thing as evil. Because these kinds of things are going on in the world, and they are as repugnant as we instinctively recognize them to be. And they are repugnant because there is an absolute objective moral law. And while the enemy has been working for centuries to eradicate any sense of it, there are still a few things which offend our sensibilities, just our innate human sensibilities, right? And what does that say? It makes no sense from an evolutionary standpoint, and it makes no sense from a mystical pantheism standpoint. It goes back to prove that deep down within us, we all know that there are certain things that are just wrong. There are certain things that are they are transgression, they are sin. And it points to the fact that the Bible is true and that God is real. So, thanks for listening.